My name is Casey James, and this is my personal introduction for AEP 855. I am a high school ag teacher and FFA advisor in my 12th year. I am currently teaching at J. Hawkland High School in Mound City, Kansas, and I am a K-State alumna. I am married to Taylor, and I'm currently serving as the Kansas Association of Agricultural Educators president. Teaching during a pandemic is totally fine. Everything's fine. It's great. No problems at all whatsoever. Except in the very beginning, on March 13th, my husband went to the hospital and he was there for a month. It was unrelated to COVID, but I didn't get to see him for an entire month that he was there because of COVID. So that was not fun. I was lucky that I had a really supportive administration and a student teacher at the time. So I was lucky that I didn't really have to worry about creating lesson plans remotely. I just kind of had to make sure that my student teacher was doing an okay job, and she was awesome. So I kind of got out of having to do that too terribly much. In August and September, we were hybrid for a month, and that was awful. I hated it. I was happy that our administration cared about our students and cared about our staff and was trying to slow the spread or keep the spread down. And we didn't have any cases of COVID back then, and so it worked. And there was other schools in our area that did. And so I was really proud that our school district was trying and attempting to keep everybody safe, but it was not fun to teach in that manner. There were some cool things that I learned about myself that I was good at, and things that I did not like about my teaching during that time. So don't recommend. And now, right now, I feel like we're constantly disappointing students because I'm an ag teacher and FFA advisor, and we usually travel a lot, especially in the spring, and not being able to do that is really disappointing to kids. So I feel like I just tell them no all the time, and that kind of stinks. So for this module, we learned about some leadership qualities and things that make that we see in school administrators who are successful. And the first one of those was their mindsets, or the way that they think, their assumptions that influences how they act. And those were all students can learn, teacher collaboration over isolation, and happiness and optimism. And the assignment asked us to say whether we agree or disagree. And as somebody who has been teaching for 12 years, I have seen a fair number of administrators, and I would tend to agree. I have seen administrators who have these mindsets, and I feel like our school is successful and our students are successful. And I've had administrators who don't necessarily have these, and it doesn't feel like a very cohesive school or a cohesive staff. And you can definitely feel when we don't have, I felt like all administrators I've had has the first one, that all students can learn, but I don't always feel the second one. I don't always feel the teacher collaboration. A lot of times I feel isolated, especially being an ag teacher, when my classroom and my building is not attached to the main high school. So I agree with these. I think these are all really valuable mindsets. The second thing for successful school administrators is disposition, and that is a prevailing tendency or mood. And those 5 things of successful school administrators were confidence, risk taker and decisive, having a sense of humor, empathetically assertive and emotional intelligence, and being a learner. Again, totally agree with all these. I think these are all spot on for a successful school administrator. This, of course, coming from somebody who has never been a school administrator, but I have seen these in successful school administrators that I have worked with. And I have seen these not in the successful school administrators that I have worked with, or ones that I haven't felt comfortable with, or I felt that our school could have been better than what it was. All of these, I think that probably the hardest one, the one that I think is the best, is having a sense of humor. And I hope that my gifts or GIFs, whichever side of the fence you're on about that, kind of shows which one is pretty important to me. And then practices are the key strategies or behaviors that leaders execute or display. And those were focusing and prioritizing, examining feedback and data, and having emotional intelligence. And again, totally agree. I think these are all 3 incredibly important. Being able to say no when you need to say no, and not get distracted, and being able to prioritize time around important goals and activities or objectives as a school administrator when you are so busy. And then sometimes as a teacher, I feel so guilty when I have to ask a question and I had to go to the principal's office, and I'm like, oh, I know that he is so busy. I don't want to ask this super little question. But being able to prioritize that is so important. Examining feedback and data, and not just examining it, but knowing what to do with it when you have it. And then having the emotional intelligence to be able to treat people with dignity and respect. Okay, 8 principles of ethical leadership, which is really funny because I chose a politician for this one. Again, I really like having a sense of humor, and administrators who also have a sense of humor. But not, like I said, not to the point of just being funny, but being able to have a sense of humor that can help ease tensions and de-escalate some serious situations. So the ethical leadership, personal courage to be able to stand up against policies that are not helpful for students or staff. Having the public interest ahead of yourself. School community interest should always precede your own. Having self-control, self-discipline, and integrity. Again, a little comical that I picked a politician for that one because so few of them actually have integrity, but they must be a positive role model. A school administrator should always be somebody that the entire staff, students, and community could look up to. Task and employee centeredness, focusing on the needs of the students and the staff. Recognizing talents and placing people where their talents would be most useful to everyone. Requiring high ethics from everyone and making sure that you are communicating those to everyone. Sensitivity and understanding, especially in today's climate, it is so important. Political, social, and economic environment must be implemented through education and institutional policies. And inclusiveness, and this is making sure that you include all stakeholders in the decision making for the school. And I, again, as with the 3 before that, I think that these are all really spot on, and I agree with all of them. I think that they're very important for a successful school administrator. Some professional and personal thoughts and misgivings. One of the reasons that I chose to enter this program is that I think that I have a lot of the qualities, the mindset, disposition, practices, and principles that a school leader should possess. Since a young age, I've been called to leadership positions, either because I wanted to help and I wanted to be involved or because my mother made me. And with a life's worth of practice and working with so many other people, these are the areas that I believe that influence me the most. And my mindset, I believe that I have optimism. And when I see a need for change, I believe that whatever organization I'm a part of, I believe that we can change and we can change for the better. And I believe that's an optimistic mindset. Disposition, I have empathy for people. And sometimes that's almost can kind of get in the way, but that kind of goes back to having to prioritize things and make sure that I'm focusing on goals, which I do believe that I am pretty good at as well. And principles, having the courage to step up when nobody else will. And I have done that so many times this year during this pandemic. I am really involved in our Ag Teachers Association, and I had to make 3 motions this year to cancel in-person events when nobody else would step up and do it. And I had to do it for the safety of our students. I just didn't think it was a good idea to be pulling students from all across eastern Kansas to go together to judge cows. It just didn't seem like a smart idea. And nobody else was stepping up to make the motion, and I had to do it. It wasn't fun, but somebody had to do it. And while I have had a lot of leadership experience, I'm far from perfect, and I will be the first to admit that. When I become a school administrator, these are the areas I believe I will need to focus on the most, or improve on the most, maybe. For my mindset, teacher collaboration. I think that is something that I've never been in the position to have as a school administrator, so that would be something that I would need to learn about, is how to utilize teachers to work together, or how to utilize teacher collaboration. Like I said earlier, I have always been isolated since I've been an ag teacher. When I taught at Hiawatha, I timed it. It was a 4-minute walk from my building to the high school. It was awful. So I always felt like I was isolated. And I've never really had that good teacher collaboration relationship as a teacher. So that's something that I would need to work on and learn about. Speaking of learning, disposition. I don't say that because I'm not a good learner, but I say that because learning is an ongoing process. And so that's something that I would constantly have to be doing, is reading and learning more about what is happening in the education climate. Practice, learning how to examine data and what to do with that. I think that's something, again, that kind of goes back with learning. and data is constantly coming in. It changes every year, every semester, and I would need to be able to learn how to utilize that data. And then principals recognizing and utilizing talent. I kind of think that also goes in with your teacher. Staff is always going to be changing, and so you'll always have to adjust how you're going to utilize your staff's talent. Supporting educational success and well-being of students and adults. So, a school administrator who possesses all of those mindsets, dispositions, practices, and principles and channels them 100% of the time sounds like a unicorn. That's not to say that a person doesn't have all of those. I think there are a lot of school administrators out there who are unicorns, but to have them always on 100% of the time is so hard because administrators are humans too. But I think if a person is trying, I think that makes them a successful administrator. So with that being said, I look forward to working with other teachers in this class and learning more about educational leadership. Thank you.